Scaling Up Nation, Trace Blackmore here with some mind-blowing news that'll make your job a whole lot easier. 3 industry titans, Masters Company, Radical Polymers, and MFG Chemical have joined forces to create your ultimate one-stop shop for your water treatment needs. We're talking over 60 years of Masters Company's expertise in private label products and cutting-edge test kits. Radical Polymers' game-changing Inisha additives, and MFG Chemical's custom manufacturing prowess. These American companies are bringing you top-notch quality and reliability all under one umbrella. From blending and ultra-concentrates to specialized polymers and custom solutions, they've got you covered. And with multiple AWT Supplier of the Year awards between them, you know you're getting the best of the best. Ready to revolutionize your water treatment game? Head over to scalinguph2o.com/MFG. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/MFG. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. Welcome to the Scaling Up H2O podcast, the podcast where we scale up on knowledge so we don't scale up our systems. I'm Trace Blackmore, the host of the Scaling Up H2O podcast. And Nation, today is going to be a fun show. It's my hope that every show is a fun show. But today, we're going to introduce you to an association that maybe you're already a member of, or maybe you've just heard of it. Well, that association is the American Boiler Manufacturers Association. And you've heard on this podcast, as we've mentioned upcoming events, us talking about the ABMA Expo. By the way, that is taking place next week. Now, AWT and ABMA are working closely together, which is one of the introductions that I had made for me so we could have today's interview. So if you haven't guessed yet, we're going to learn all about the American Boiler Manufacturers Association, and we are going to hear from some of the people that run that fine organization. You know, boilers, I think, are some of the coolest things that we get the privilege of taking care of in our day-to-day water treatment businesses. Boilers are just cool. They're pressure vessels. We can turn 180 BTU water into minimum 1150 BTU steam. I just think that's cool. All of the power that comes with that. And then, of course, if we do our job properly, that machine is producing that BTUs for the steam as efficiently as it possibly can. Well, I actually looked at the history of boilers, and you can look throughout civilization, ancient civilizations, and there's always been something where people were using some sort of simple steam devices, whether they were just heating water, whether they were using geothermal and baths. There's always been something to do with either steam or boilers in almost every single civilization. Well, looking back in the history books, in 1679, Denis Papin in France built an early steam vessel with a safety valve. That was innovative. And he was often cited with taking the first step towards practical boilers. Later, around the 16 and early 1700s, a kettle-type boiler was placed above the firebox to boil, created steam in a simple engine. In 1698, Thomas Savery patented a steam-powered water pump for mines. In 1712, Thomas Newcomen developed an atmospheric steam engine using a basic boiler to pump water for mines, an early workhouse for the Industrial Revolution. And then, of course, the one we all know about in the mid-1700s, James Watt improved Newcomen's design, and he was actually credited with creating the first steam boiler And that went into steam engines for factories, ships, railways, and really paved the Industrial Revolution. During the 1800s, boiler design evolved from a simple shell firing tube to more efficient and safer water tube boiler designs. And that also allowed pressures and capacities to increase. In 1867, George Babcock and Stephen Wilcox, I'm sure you've heard of Babcock and Wilcox as far as different testing apparatus, patented a widely recognized modern water tube steam boiler design that later formed the Babcock and Wilcox Company. They, of course, were a major boiler manufacturer. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, larger industrial water tube and bent tube boilers enabled higher pressure steam generation on a more large scale basis. In 1868, Benjamin Waddy McGann invented one of the first modern gassed water heaters, paving the way for domestic hot water boilers. In the 20th century, residential and commercial boilers shifted from coal to oil and gas fired with better controls and safer pressure vessels. In the 1970s, the energy crisis promoted condensing and high efficiency boilers along with advanced controls. And this is when we started seeing reduced fuel usage and emissions. Today, boilers range from small, high efficiency units in homes to massive water tube boilers in power plants, all being focused around efficiency, safety, emissions, and reduction in resources. Well, Nation, I don't know if anybody's ever run down the boiler history for you. And of course, that is just a small sampling, but it's pretty cool to see all the improvements that have been made around boilers. And the only reason that that can happen is because people wanted to solve a problem. People wanted to make things better, and people collaborated to do those things. Well, I'm going to introduce you to some people that run an amazing organization. Of course, that's called the American Boiler Manufacturers Association. Get ready to start learning. Here is that interview. My lab partners today are Scott Lynch and Shanika Jason of the American Boiler Manufacturers Association. Welcome to the Scaling Up H2O podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to talk about all the great things that you guys do. We do a lot with the Association of Water Technologies, and I know you guys are working with them as well. So it just makes sense to have you on the podcast. But before we get to all of that and the expo that's coming up, do you mind telling us a bit about yourselves? Scott, why don't we start with you?
Sure. About me or about the association or both?
How about both?
Okay. So I am Scott Lynch, President and CEO of the American Boiler Manufacturers Association. I've been with the organization about 10 years and have seen a lot of evolution in our industry and our association over that time. When I joined the organization, our membership was pretty much primarily focused on the boiler manufacturers and key suppliers to the industry. We had about 120 members at the time. We are up well over 200 members at this point. We have the representatives of our products that are also members, as well as launching other things related to the focus on the users of our products and how the boilers are being treated and how the boilers are being installed and everything else within the boiler supply chain, more than just the membership. So I think we look at ourselves as a organization focused on the boilers from manufacturing all the way to use in the field. And we'll talk about the expo a little later, but I think that gives you an overview of the membership. And I'll let Shanika share who she is and any more insights she wants to share.
Sure. I am Shanika Jason, Vice President of Membership and Marketing for the American Boiler Manufacturers Association. And, I work very closely with Scott on, the overall strategy of our trade association. I'm overseeing a lot of the events and kind of the marketing, our advertising, a lot of our communications but also the membership. So I'm the outward facing contact for the membership. And I'm also one of the co founders of our Women in the Boiler Industry new professional community. So, something just to note behind Scott's comments is we're the oldest continuous trade association. So, we started in 1888 and we've been around a very, very long time.
I didn't know that. That's an impressive number.
Yes.
So we've got about 20,000 people that listen to us. Who needs to join the American Boiler Manufacturers Association?
Well, since Shanika is head of membership, I will let her start this question.
Well, the interesting thing about our membership is we are made up of four main categories. So we have our active members, which tend to be our boiler, burner, deaerator, and economizer manufacturers, also fabricators. So they would fall under that area. We have our associate members, and those are companies and or manufacturers that supply components to the equipment within the boiler room. They might be water treaters, they might be control, manufacturers, they might do rentals, they might service equipment. So that's our associate members. Then we also have a very small area called professional affiliate. Those would be your consultants, very small companies that work within the industry. And then our last and newest category is our manufacturers reps, and they rep the manufacturer's products. And that's our newest category.
And that's kind of unique to our sector. Usually, a lot of the products that you see in the field, they're coming from wholesale, where they have a whole bunch of products that they sell in the field and the competing products. What makes our members unique is that they don't do that. They actually just represent one product in that marketplace. So they may actually represent two different boiler companies, but it might be a large company that does larger boilers, a company that does smaller boilers. They might represent a burner company and then a deaerator company, but they are just representing one of those companies in that region that focuses on that product. And we have representatives from all over the country that are doing all different products throughout. And they're also doing the service on the products, which is why it's so important for them to be members of our organization as well, because they're the ones that are in the field that see what's going on in the field and that are assisting our companies with that knowledge back to them on what's going on and what activities are happening, what are things that they're seeing over and over again that's something a manufacturer might want to address.
And I just wanted to note that ultimately, if you're a company that falls under one of these categories, we're bringing together the industry for thought leadership. We have a couple of big events a year, such as our annual and summer meeting and our Boiler Expo, where we're bringing the industry together, the leadership of the industry to collaborate, learn on future technologies, efficiencies, new trends. And so, if anyone's looking at those kind of educational opportunities, those opportunities to collaborate with the leaders of the industry, then that would be, what you would want to look at for membership with us, because we are out there advocating for these manufacturers. We're bringing them together to network, and we're working on workforce development and educating and updating all these members.
What's the mission of the ABMA?
And so the mission of ABMA is to be the voice of the industry, but to bring together, all the pieces of the industry to advance our interests. As the boiler industry, Shonik said, we were founded in 1888. I think there's a big misconception about the technology today that's in the boiler industry, and that it's not the technology from 50 years ago, and it is pretty cutting edge. And I think that people don't see it that way or don't understand it or realize it. So we're trying to be the voice of that industry to promote that, make sure people understand it, and that they're educated on working with boilers. So that, because boilers, they can be an equipment that, if not operated properly, can be dangerous. And so our goal is to make sure that people are educated, well aware, and that the boilers are operating safe and efficiently.
So, just to come behind Scott, our official mission is to lead, advance, and provide solutions to the boiler industry. And our vision is boilers are recognized for advancing energy sustainability and powering people's lives.
So I guess that was just a better way of what I said.
Now, we've only been talking for a couple minutes, and you've both have mentioned education several times. What are some of the things that the ABMA is doing to educate people out there about boilers?
Yeah, so I'll start and then I'll pass it on to Shaunika. One thing that we've been really passionate about this year, because it was coming up to our event, was reaching out to those industry associations that those members are using boilers. So we talked to the Tennessee Healthcare Engineering Association. We've talked to the Southeastern Food Processing Association. We've talked to the Association of Facility Engineers and all these kind of groups. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a relationship where we have education and knowledge that we have as an industry that makes it so that if they hear this information, they can reflect on how they are doing in their own boiler rooms and then kind of take the next step. So we had a presentation that we've been doing on boiler maintenance and operations. So like what should you be doing in a boiler room on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis to make sure that boiler room is being operated safe and efficiently. So it's that outreach to those people, getting where they are, not just asking them to come to where we are. So that's one of the major things. The other things is the launch of our Expo, which has a number of educational sessions on various topics. And I know we'll talk about the Expo a little bit later, but that's one of the things that we are doing is reaching out to all those related associations. Shaunika, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
I would say there's different segments to how we're educating. Let's, like Scott said, we're partnering with various other associations out there to help their members receive boiler maintenance and just technology education. We're also, like Scott said, working with educating the industry through our expo, and our leadership is through some of our meetings, our member meetings. But we also have some new and upcoming opportunities. We're working on a big resource center where people can kind of look to us as a resource to find some of the, the standard white papers that are out there on things. We'll have some on demand resource opportunities, but then we're also looking at other ways where we can develop the workforce, the future workforce, where we're trying to do cool things like partnering with the maritime academies, looking at some of the incoming STEAM engineers, and how we can help these academies learn about our industry so that they have the best education as far as getting them prepared for, careers within our industry and other STEAM industries.
I guess the one thing I would just add, and Shaunika touched on it for a second, is that the as a thought leader, we definitely have created white papers on various areas of boiler. Whether it is water treatment, whether it is a boiler maintenance schedule, whether it is something on a boiler installation guide. And so our goal is to expand that. But even on our website currently, there's a number of those out there that are just kind of like they're not supposed to replace the manufacturer's recommendations, but they're supposed to be a way of helping them understand that this is what the industry kind of standard is. This is what we think is the best practice. And you always should go back to the manufacturer to ensure that you're doing the right thing. But it's a way of kind of saying, okay, what should I be doing in my boiler room? What shouldn't I be doing? And I think there is a little bit of both of those things.
Yeah, and just to also come behind Scott, a lot of our members have amazing training. And we hope to be that resource to provide a list and all the, current availabilities out there of some of this world-class training that our members are offering.
So there are a lot of people that are either already retired or getting ready to retire in our industry. And not as many people are coming in from the Navy and all sorts of older places or other places that they used to get trained. They get trained enough to do their job, but then maybe after they get trained on what their day to day is like, many of them aren't learning newer things and better things. How are you guys trying to help with that?
Well, that's a honestly, we think of the future of skilled workforce as the 500-pound gorilla of our industry. One of them, the fact of the people retiring and losing all that knowledge, and that the lack of the pipeline coming in is a gigantic challenge for all of our members, and I think for everybody in the manufacturing sector. One of the anecdotes that I always share is that during COVID, when nobody wanted to hire because they were afraid to invest and didn't know what was going on, all of our members still had job openings, and especially in the skilled workforce area. I mean, what we're looking to do, and we think it's something that we're gonna have to kind of pilot programs, throughout the country. We've had some partnerships, as Shanika mentioned, with some trade schools where we've gotten them. One thing that we're doing for our expo is that we engage the local trade school, and they're doing a project for us. So it enables them to do a welding project at the school, but then also gives us something to show off at the trade show, and then make sure that they're aware, because the other part of this is it's also awareness. It's awareness that even though there is a small pipeline of people coming out of the trades, that they know that we're a sector that is a sector where they should be working, right? And that they don't have to be going to the name brand places that maybe they know, but there's other opportunities. Many of our companies are the key drivers for small towns. They're the manufacturing arm of that small town, and that many people are working. I'll go into towns and do member visits, and they're like, "Oh, were you up the street at this company?" "Yep, that's where I visited." Well, we're so happy to have them here, and all that. But it's a huge challenge, and it's about promoting the industry, and it's about figuring out how to penetrate their school system, and teach people more about our industry that is kind of unknown to many. If you ask people when you walk around the shop floor and you walk around even the office, why are you working at this boiler company? Why are you working at this burner company? Why are you working at this rep company? "Oh, well, my uncle worked here," or, "Oh, my sister or my brother-in-law had a job here," or, the people are not finding the boiler industry outside of a lot of, that I knew a friend or I knew this. And so we got to make sure it's out there, that this is a real industry that is still thriving and continues to grow, and that people want to be in. Shauna, I don't know if you want to share some stuff.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think what we're looking at, and I think it probably applies to a lot of manufacturing industries, is what is encouraging to the upcoming generations. What are they into? They're into all these new technologies. And I think that's part of just our strategic initiative of promoting boilers and kind of educating the public on our industry and how far we've come from the past, is showing, AI is becoming a new technology in even our industry. Look at the different things they are doing as far as technological advances within the boiler room. These Internet of Things, you've got boiler rooms now that are virtual, that can be managed remotely. So I think some of those newer technologies are the things that are going to pique the interest of the up and coming generations, that encourage them to start looking at our industry as something that's cool and new as well. And we have to look at changing the perspective of, we're just, all you need to be is a welder, or no, there's a lot of new jobs that are entailed within our industry, not just welders, not just engineers. There's lots of new opportunities as far as technological advances within the boiler room.
Are there any myths or misconceptions that either of you would like to retire?
A ton. One is that the boiler room hasn't changed in 100 years, because I think that is a myth. I really do. I think that's one of those things where it's like, people think that the boiler is just creating steam or hot water, and there's no great technology that goes into it. And that can't be further from the truth. Our members, over at least the last 25, 50 years, have significantly increased the efficiency of the boiler room. So you think about it, if a boiler room is 70% efficient, then you have 30% of that boiler room that's being wasted. Wasted gas, wasted electricity, wasted energy. Our members now are building boiler systems that are 95% efficient, and so that there's a huge delta there between efficiency, and that's just wasted money. I mean, anytime you have an efficiency gap, all that is money going out the stack, right? If you think about it that way. And also on the environmental side, I mean, I talk to some members and they'll tell you that the air coming into the boiler room, the air going out is cleaner than the air coming in. That the work that they are doing. So when people have these focuses on environmental sustainability, and that they want to be a good steward for that, and they don't look at their boiler room as a way to become a steward, they're missing out. Because, and that's the other piece of it. The other piece is that the boiler room and the energy, let's just say the energy management system, can be a huge cost to a hospital, to a large resort, to a government building. And getting that more efficient has a huge impact on the day-to-day costs of those rooms. And we have now control systems that will aware them of things that happen immediately. We have new control systems that will aware people of things before they happen, right? So, if you're in a boiler room and you ignore issues, right? And you ignore things that are okay, well, the boiler's still running, but it seems like we're not getting the efficiency we should be getting. Well, all those things are impacting performance. And then when it goes down, you could be in trouble. Some of our food processing companies, they could lose $1 million a day if their boiler room is not running. I mean, these are things that you cannot be, you have to be on top of. And we have the technology now, as Shanika mentioned, with the Internet of Things and the connectivity where they can monitor a whole bunch of things. The manufacturer can even monitor some things off site to make sure that you're doing what needs to be done. And so with new burner technologies, new control technologies, there's a whole lot of stuff out there that people just don't understand. And they just think it's just making steam and hot water in my basement. So in the basement of our building. So as long as it's running, that's fine. And there's a whole lot that they're missing out on. Go ahead, Shanika. Is there another myth that you want to dispel?
Well, there's a couple things I think. I feel like when we talk a lot to people, many people don't even really know the boiler, what it does and how essential it is. So I think also touching on, I'm constantly talking to people about how essential boilers are. All your Amazon boxes, your pharmaceuticals, your pulp and paper, all that toilet paper and paper towels, we are so essential, and we affect about 95% of everything you're touching or dealing with on your day to day life. And it's funny what Scott was saying, talking about the steam and hot water coming out of the boilers. Just a basic one. A lot of people think what's coming out of the stack is pollution. That's steam, So I think we have, some people who don't even have the basic understandings of the function of the boiler and kind of the purpose of the boiler room and what actually is happening. But I think the other big area that we talk a lot with the public is how efficient, as we mentioned, but also the new green technologies that are coming from the boiler industry. I mean, we're talking a lot more about hydrogen boilers, dual fuels, hybrid systems. So they're able to have a hybrid system with a heat pump and a boiler so that they can get their system up and running quickly while the boiler warms up and then switch over. So we have a lot of cool technologies and things that are going on that people just really don't understand. They're wanting to integrate a lot more electric into the boiler room. And that's another myth, is that they can take their plant and go all electric. And I think that's the thing that we're trying to educate, is there are places that it makes sense to have all electric, or that they might use hydrogen if it's accessible. So I think you're needing to look at the resources you have available in your area, and then talking with your boiler manufacturers or your mechanical contractors to see which of those resources probably make the most sense for what you have access and what your needs are.
I guess the one more thing I will say is that one more myth that I want to dispel is that the boiler that you currently have might not be the best boiler for your application. That people think I've been running this boiler for 20 years, it must be what I need, right? And I think that if you, in some cases, you have to also think, has your system significantly changed over the last 20 years? Is there other technology out there that could be better for what you need? And I think a lot of people, when our members go in, they're like, well, this boiler is old, I just want to replace it with the same thing. And our members will go in and say, well, what are you guys doing here? And they'll be like, okay, we're doing this and this. They're like, well, that, like, if you really want an efficient product and you want what you need, this might be a better option. And people are like, oh, no, just give me what I have, right? And they're like, so it's one of those things where it's like, we're the experts here, we can kind of help you work through that. and figure out what will be your biggest bang for your buck. What is the thing that you need? Do you need a backup boiler? Do you need other options? How important is the steam to your process? And so I think people kind of get this thing in their head that, okay, well, this is what we've always had. Well, as technology changes, sometimes you should actually be, changing, the way that the kind of boiler that you have, or the kind of system, or the controls. A lot of times, a company can come in and replace the burner and the control systems and do like what they call a retrofit, and they can get a good bang for their buck there without replacing the whole boiler. Other times doesn't make sense, and you got to replace the whole system. But I think there's a misconception there that if I just replace one piece, will I even get any efficiency or get any gain from it? And it depends on what it is. Sometimes it will.
All right, Scaling Up Nation, it's time for a word from one of our sponsors. Hey there, Scaling Up Nation, it's Trace Blackmore, and today I want to talk about a powerful ally in the fight against biofilm, ABMA. Here's the bottom line. Biocides alone just aren't enough to control biofilm. That's why ABMA's R&D team designed BCP products to work alongside biocides to create an effective biofilm control program. Whether you're dealing with oxidizing or non-oxidizing biocides, ABMA products are compatible and enhance their performance, helping to keep your system under control. But that's not all. ABMA BCP products are versatile. They can be used for aggressive offline cleaning, gradual online cleaning, or as part of a regular water treatment program to keep your cooling water systems clean long-term. Whether you're dosing in a slug-based or continuous program, ABMA has you covered. ABMA products are your secret weapon in systems prone to fouling, like those with high ammonia levels, hydrocarbon contamination, or reclaimed water. Because as we all know, ABMA's chemistry helps clean it up and keep it clean. Scaling Up Nation, if you're ready to take your biofilm control program to the next level, head over to scalinguph2o.com/ABMA to learn more about their innovative biofilm control program solutions. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/AMSA. Trust me, your cooling water systems will thank you. Scaling Up Nation, we have some of the most amazing sponsors. Now, back to the interview. You mentioned earlier 70% to a 99% efficiency gain. That ROI has to be pretty quick.
It is pretty quick. And so when I say 70%, I mean, if the boiler's 50 years old and there hasn't been that much, upgrades to the system, it's pretty easy to increase it significantly. Now, if the boiler has a newer system and you're just trying to upgrade some things, you're not going to change the efficiency that much. But you're right. There are some, I'm sure that our members go into some of these old boiler rooms and they can save them a lot of money really quick. And our members go out there and they say, hey, we ran across a boiler that was like built in 1940 that's still running. I mean, this is not something that is rare. Some of these, companies still have the same boiler. I mean, some of the products in there are probably different. The burner might be newer or some other pieces, but the shell of the boiler is still almost 100 years old.
Yeah, we take care of a boiler in downtown Atlanta, and I want to say it's every bit of 100 years old. Probably some efficiency gains on that account. You all both mentioned at the top of the interview that you were trying to work with other industries this year, and specifically the Association of Water Technologies you guys are working with. Can you tell us about that relationship and some of the things that you're doing?
Yes, so, it's been such a pleasure working with the AWT. They approached us and felt like there'd be so much synergies. We have a water treatment guideline. We also have a deaerator group. So we've been working with them on updating a co-branded water treatment guideline that is going to be accepted by both associations. And so that was probably the essential first step that they approached us as far as how we could work together. But we have water treatment companies that are members, TGWT. We also have Chem Aqua is another. We have a couple, but I think we have space to grow, especially as AWT starts engaging us. We can actually grow that deaerator and water treatment group, to continue to put out white papers. And we also are working with them. And I know we're going to get into the expo later, but we have a water treatment pre conference workshop that AWT will be hosting at the Boiler Expo. So just working with them on some opportunities to educate on water treatment within our industry, and also looking how we can have, these product and market groups of the deaerator and water treatment working together, producing new white papers and resources.
Well, the other piece of this is that we have product and market groups. We have one for the burner group. We have another one for our industrial group. We have one for our rental group, and we had a group called deaerator and water treatment. And our deaerator guys said, we're not water treaters. We create deaerators, which is a mechanical treatment of, but not really like. And so what they said was, we really need the water treatment guys to be part of this discussion. We definitely deal with water, but it's a two-part process. And in order for us to create guidelines and documents that are valuable, both pieces have to be there. And so partnering with AWT has allowed us, and we just had a call. We dropped off the last call, which is with our AWT partners, to get onto this one. And there was a great dialogue there between the two groups of, like, you could see that, like, when the water treatment guys would say, okay, I know up to this, but we need one of the deaerator guys to actually tell us, okay, now where does it go from here? And then there were parts on the call where it was like the deaerator guys were like, well, we know up to this, but you guys can help us get here. And we also felt that if the two organizations come together on a document, and a boiler company and a water treatment company is saying, this is really how you need to treat your boiler with water treatment, they hear it from both sides. It's a united message that I think resonates more.
And I think too, having us work together, Jeremy Zelmer, our chair of the deaerator group, and myself attended the annual conference for AWT, and we had a booth. And I have to say, I can see the value already in the two organizations working together, because I cannot tell you how many water treaters came to our booth and said, we need to talk through this, because, I feel like it's kind of pointing fingers. The deaerators point to the water treaters point to the deaerators. And so I think now more than ever, it's so great to have the deaerators and the water treaters coming together to figure out, so we can stop pointing fingers and come up with a united message that goes out to both industries, but also having that AWT leadership helping guide us and our manufacturers on what is proper for the water treatment.
And Trace, I'll add one more thing. When you ask our companies, what is one of the number one causes of the boiler not operating effectively, it's the treatment of the water. They all say it, that the scaling and everything else that's associated with bad water treatment, tubes that are falling apart, the efficiency, that there is such a need out there for proper water treatment and proper education on it. And it helps our boiler companies, because if the water is treated properly, they're not destroying the boiler, right? So, and it also brings efficiency and everything else. So it's just been such a big issue that we're trying to tackle, and we think this partnership's part of that.
I think it sounds great. I think it probably should have happened years ago. I'm so happy it's happening now.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about the Boiler Expo that's getting ready to take place. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when your members hear this, we'll be almost kicking off the expo. So
Next week?
yeah, so this is a long process here with the evolution of this expo. So if you can imagine what would the best idea for an association would be, we did, which was to launch an expo right out of COVID. So so, and actually it was supposed to be during COVID and got pushed forward, right? So we realized, at one point that the only way that we're going to be able to really engage the full supply chain, the people that are operating the boilers, the people that are influencing the boilers process, boiler purchasing, the people that are influencing our industry, we need to be fully engaged there. And so we launched an expo that we started in 2022, and this is our third time doing it. So the first time we did it in Dallas, then we were in Colorado, and now we're in Nashville. And everybody wants to go to Nashville. So we're real excited about that.
It's a great town.
It is. And we're at the Gaylord Opryland there, all in one place for everybody. And what I would say is that if somebody works with boilers, it's an event that they can't miss, because here's the thing. We have over 130 manufacturers and suppliers exhibiting. We have over 20 educational sessions on 4 tracks on the fundamentals of boilers to the new and innovative things that are going on, to how to operations in a boiler room and everything in between, right? And then in addition, we have tours of the Gaylord Opryland boiler room. We also have education in the boiler room. We have mobile boiler units that will be available for people to walk through. We have our keynote speaker is Rusty Wallace, former NASCAR driver, and just a whole activity there where it's like everything's focused on boilers, right? You can go to other shows where it's like heating and air conditioning and refrigeration, and boilers are a small piece of it, but this is all about boilers. It's a 2-day show with a pre-day. You come, you engage, and it's just a great experience for everybody there. And we'll have everybody from the supplier all the way to the customer.
And I wanted to touch on a couple other things as well. Something very unique this show, we started looking into some of our partners, and I realized that a partner that we regularly exhibited with was having their show the same dates as us. And I said, well, that's odd. And then I started looking deeper, and they're in Nashville, Tennessee. And I was like, well, that's odd. Where are they at? I started looking closer. They're in the Ryman Hall. I'm like, we're in the Ryman Hall. So we are co-located, our show, with the Biomass Conference and Expo. So the neat thing about this year is we are going to be co-located in the same hall with their show and our show, as long as their attendees have an all access pass and our attendees have an all access pass. You can cross between each show. So you're getting 2 for 1. So that's a really neat thing that I think if it goes well, we might continue co-locating with them in the future. Even if you're not in the biomass space, they have a lot of biogas also in their industry show. So another thing I just wanted to touch on is we have 2 professional communities that are newer. One is called Built, which is our boiler industry leaders of tomorrow. It's our young professionals community. And we also have a group called the Women in the Boiler Industry, and that's WIBI, professional community. So what's neat about this show is we launched WIBI at the last Boiler Expo with a luncheon and panel. We are continuing that with this show, but we also are now going to have a networking reception for our young professionals. So we are looking at ways and opportunities where we can grow these professional communities and give them opportunities to network at our bigger events. So with that WIBI panel, we have officially just come out and announced we are working with a group called Ladies of Steam. A lot of people don't know, but they are a group of ladies who are interested in historical locomotives. And a lot of them are actually involved in steam locomotive boilers. So it's very neat to see this group, and actually like 70% are men coming, and we're going to highlight them and just kind of see how neat their community is. They go to some of these steam locomotive festivals, but it's really sparking interest in young girls to look into, the boiler industry, into engineering, into working with their hands on steam locomotives. And we thought it'd be a great opportunity to highlight them and kind of all the work they're doing on the stage. And what's neat at this show, we're actually previewing and revealing our historical boiler timeline. So we're looking at the boiler industry, from the early 1900s all the way up till now. And it just fits very well with the ladies of steam, kind of how they're into the historical boilers, and how we can, just looking at the show, the past, how it's come along to where we are now in the future. And understanding the future means understanding your past. So I just wanted to highlight those things about the event.
Now, it's coming up very shortly, March 31st through April 2nd. Is there still time to register?
Absolutely.
Yes, and you can register on site. So if you come next week, you can register right on site when you come. and there'll be opportunities to come and stay for the day, stay for the 3 days. Anybody who's within a couple hours of Nashville, even if you're doing it at the last minute, we'd love to have you.
And I would just say for your readers, since you are so connected with the AWT community, we have two codes, two promotion codes that we were giving out with the AWT community. And that's 50% off the all access registration. And that's just boiler AWT 50% AA. And we also have a comp code for the Expo only registration. I think if they just go to the AWT and request access to their codes, they can just contact the AWT directly, and they have a booth so they can work with them on their registration, their promotion codes.
And we'll be happy to put any information that you provide on our show notes page to make that even easier if you like.
Fantastic.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on and talking about all the great things that the ABMA does. And as I mentioned before, we'll be sure to put all of the information that you mentioned on our show notes page to make it very easy for our listeners. But for now, if our listeners could only take away one point, what do you want that one point to be?
I think the one point that I want to leave with them is that the boiler industry continues to evolve and innovate. And if they're working in the industry, or they have boilers or whatever it happens to be, that ABMA can be a resource for them. And reaching out to Shaunika or myself, Shaunika's email is shaunik@abma.com, Scott@abma.com. It's pretty easy. Reach out to us, ask us questions. We have technical consultants that are on our team that are retired from the industry, that know more about boilers than most people would ever learn about boilers, right? And we can help people with questions. We can connect people. We have a website that has information on technical papers. And just know that the boiler industry is alive and thriving, and that we are here to be of service to our members and to the people that work our products. Shaunika, what about you?
I think I would just say the people. And of course, being the membership person, I have to end with this, but not only the people that we interact with within our industry, our members are amazing, but I think the people out there that are working in the boiler industry, in the water technologies, in the skilled trades, they are making up our, America. And I feel like sometimes just recognizing the people and how great the people are that we work with every day, running the boilers, maintaining the boilers, producing the boilers. We're just a great industry worth considering and looking into. And we love our members. We love our operators. We love our water treaters. So thank you so much for all you do.
And there's nothing like going to visit a member and seeing the passion that they have for their company and the products they make, and walking onto the shop floor and seeing a boiler, them telling us where it's going. Oh, this is getting shipped here, and we'll be doing this, and there's just something special about manufacturing, and like the passion that they have for the business and the companies that they run.
Well, Scott Lynch, Shaunika Jason, the American Boiler Manufacturers Association, thank you so much for coming on the Scaling Up H2O podcast and letting us know more about the valuable resources that you all offer.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Nation, if you have not looked at the ABMA and visited them online at abma.com, you are going to find so much information. You're going to find information about how to join, all of the events that they are having, including the one that they are having in Nashville just next week. And Nation, so many resources are available there. I was so happy to hear that the Association of Water Technologies and the ABMA are working together. Just think of that wealth of knowledge with all the volunteers in both of those organizations, bringing together their collective knowledge to give us more definite guidelines to go on. When was the last time you saw boiler water treatment recommendations and they just didn't make any sense based on what you know about the existing water chemistry? but maybe they were put together by some older documents. They haven't been updated, but still, that's what we have to maintain if that's what we are given. So I am just so excited about the AWT and the ABMA working together to make sure that we are getting the latest and greatest information on the documents that are controlling our programs. Well, Nation, it's my hope that you go to the Expo next week. It is an amazing show. I always hear great things about that show. I know there are a lot of members in the Nashville area of the Scaling Up Nation. I hope you go. I hope you've already gotten your tickets. And as we were told, there are plenty left and you can register on site. So for any information about the Expo, about the ABMA, I will have all of that on the show notes for this show just to make it very easy for you. Simply go to scalinguph2o.com, go over to episode 469, and you will see everything that you need from this episode and even some resources that we didn't even get a chance to talk about during this episode. You know, if you haven't been to the webpage in a while, we've got so many things that bring this podcast out of your app and into your day-to-day. We do discussion guides so you can discuss any episode with your team and make sure that you're getting all the information from our guest straight to your company. That way, you're doing continuing education, you're having some great conversations, you're hearing what are people thinking about these episodes and how can we apply that to the way that we are doing water treatment, to the way that we are doing business. We also have a quiz. If you want to test your knowledge with listening to the podcast, you can download one of the quizzes. You can even do that with your team. There are several companies that do training programs that incorporate this podcast with that training, and then they incorporate the quizzes that we provide absolutely free just for listening and going to scalinguph2o.com. and downloading all of these resources. There are all these things on the website to hopefully bring this podcast to life and make sure all the information that we're getting from all of our fantastic guests are being practiced, because our goal is to raise the bar in the entire industrial water treatment industry, and these are just some of the ways that we are doing it. Now, you heard earlier on the interview, they said that they were the earliest association. I actually looked that up, and it is 100% true. The American Boiler Manufacturers Association, founded in 1888, is the longest continuously operated manufacturing trade association in the United States. Now, the meeting back in 1988, with the formal founding of the organization taking place April 16th through 17th in 1889, which was a two-day meeting in Pittsburgh where a constitution for the organization was adopted. The association was initially formed to address widespread boiler explosions and safety concerns during rapid industrial growth of the late 19th century. How cool is that? Well, Nation, we are always learning on this podcast, and I hope not only you learn from this interview, you're going to continue to learn with all the different trade organizations that we have that touch our industry. We try to make it easy for you by going online. I already told you how to do that. Now you just have to do it. Make sure you're taking the information from this podcast and putting it to great use. Now, somebody that tries to do that each and every week is our friend, James McDonald. And here is a brand new Words of Water with James.
Hello and welcome to Words of Water with James, the industrial water game show where I give you the definition and you get to guess the word or phrase being defined. Will you rise to the top or get blown down to try your luck another day? There's only one way to find out on Words of Water with James. Today's definition is a salt solution, generally sodium chloride, used during the regeneration process and ion exchange. Can you guess the word? The answer is brine. Okay, for those who got it correct, step to the right. For those who got it wrong, please step to the left. Ooh, that sounded hard.
Hey, buddy, get a water softener.
That's a good idea. I'm James McDonald, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Words of Water with James.
Well, thank you, James. And Nation, thank you for listening to this podcast. By the way, if you have not planned for your holiday festivities for the next Industrial Water Week, you've got plenty of time left, but it does start October 5th through October 9th. Of course, we're going to celebrate pre-treatment, boilers, cooling, wastewater, and careers that entire week. We, of course, make that a real celebration for all of us in the water treatment industry. We bring you a brand new show each and every day that week. Now, we have to prepare for that lineup throughout the entire year because there's so much content that we put into that week. I want to make sure that you are pre-planning now. So think about, what are you going to do with your team? Are you going to do anything for your customers? What are you going to do to maybe encourage people to listen to this podcast and pull that through to what you're doing with your team and your customers? Nation, I love having this podcast. I love being the host of this podcast, and I love the most that you are taking the time to listen to it. We're going to have a brand new episode for you next Friday. Until then, have a great week, folks.